Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this NFL DFS 2021 Week 4 podcast preview show here at Main Event DFS. My name is Adam Kohn. I am your host. For those of you not familiar with my work, I am an NFL DFS analyst and content provider here for Main Event DFS. Maybe you've seen and heard about the CSGO Clutch podcast that I do on YouTube with my buddy Dan Welch. And we also provide that here at Main Event DFS. Go check that out over in the CSGO channel. But we're here to talk about NFL Week 4 and a lot of games to talk about. Another big 13-game slate. And I'm not alone this week, ladies and gentlemen. I am bringing in another heavy hitter. We had my buddy Jeremy Goki here a couple weeks ago from my previous adventures back at Arbor Pro, and I've got another one here for you previously from Arbor Pro as well. My good buddy and pal, Mr. Michael Kavaliunas. You can find him on Twitter at Lunas, L-I-U-A-N-A-S. L-I-U-N-A-S. It's late at night. And I'll be plugging his PGA stuff in a little bit, but first let's bring him in here. Mike, how you doing, my friend?
What's up, Adam? I couldn't ask for a better introduction. I will say this, though. My number one regret in all of this is my Twitter handle at Lunas, man. It's like, it confuses people. I swear to God, like, people are like, oh, Linus? Or what? Or who? Or nothing? But, man, mentioning Arbor Pro, those were some good times. Good times with CJ Kaltenbach and doing all that stuff. It was great.
That was a ton of fun. Hey, at least your handle isn't like Peter Jennings, CSU Ram 88, where he said several times he's wanted to change it, but it's just became like a thing for him. He's just kind of kept it.
I'm just not there yet. So I guess I do have time to change it and potentially get bigger. But I guess, I'm a small fish, man, in a large pond now. So, like, who knows, man? We'll see what happens. But, it's great to be here talking some NFL. I know people know me mainly for my PGA content, but when you're maxing out millies, in NFL, you kind of hope they know what they're doing, right? You kind of hope that.
I mean, you would kind of sort of hope that, but we are in the first 4 weeks, so hopefully, this is kind of bad of me to say, but for those of us that are putting in the research and putting in the time, if little tiny fishies and casual players want to max out the millie, we got no problem taking some of their money if they're just entering their favorite plays.
Yeah, and if they're entering one lineup, go ahead. Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Yes, we're not going to get down that road. You've criticized me for that plenty of times before, but we're going to leave that for another podcast. Listen, Mike is I call him the PGA guru. Mike, you can find some of his PGA content if you're interested in PGA DFS. He's where I go to for all of my PGA content. As much as I love Roto Grinders and Awesemo and listening to some of their stuff and looking at our stuff here at Main Event DFS for our PGA content, look, Mike's my go-to guy for PGA DFS. So again, find him on Twitter at Lunas, L-I-U-N-A-S. And his PGA stuff, check out the Cutline podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. It's available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, it's all over the place. And check out his awesome website that I'd highly recommend for anything PGA, cutlinegolf.com. It's pretty badass. It is pretty badass. You can check out some of his stuff. He's got some great helpful articles, GPP strategies, just different kind of stuff going on over there. His course reports are awesome. Like, anything you need for PGA can be found over at cutlinegolf.com. But now that we got all that stuff out of the way, one last thing.
It's all free. I do want to mention it's all free.
Absolutely.
No subscriptions, tons of things. There's tons of features on there.
Mike only makes me pay for it.
Yep, that's true, and that's why I look so good. But that's tons of features on there. Tournament model, download your own model, modify it, weight it, build your own, basically projection system and everything like that. So it's all there, all free, fun, golf, best sweat you can have, on a Sunday, other than football. But
yeah, free PGA elite content for free. You'll love to see it. All right, you can follow me on Twitter at AdamWX21 and check us out on Twitter at MainEventDFS, M-A-N-E. Again, for like the longest time, I always thought we were, M-A-N-E event underscore DFS. I always thought it was M-A-I-N for the longest time, and then Mr. Ethan corrected me on that, and I'm like, oh, whoops. I've been thinking about that wrong for about a year. Oh, well. So, all right, again, on Twitter, at main event underscore DFS. You're obviously here on our YouTube page. Hit that like button down below this video. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. That way that you all know every single time one of these podcasts drop. Leave a comment down below. Tell Mike and I who you all are interested in on this slate. Do you agree? Do you not agree? And I need a podcast name, people. I'm 4 weeks into this. I still can't think of a good enough podcast name. Keep them podcast names coming. Podcast name coming soon. But Mike, we're going to jump right into it here. We are going to get into the first game here on the slate. And you want to talk about Seattle and San Francisco?
Absolutely, man. They got a total of 51. Spread right now is 3.5 in favor of San Francisco. A lot of love is going the Niners' way. And I see that. Like, a lot of people are talking about how bad the defense has been for the Seahawks. They've been, just a leaky faucet of bad, right? We saw it against so many teams so far. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they're terrible to where Jimmy G should be getting this much love. And I really like the flip side of this. If let's just say that it does happen and Seattle does fall down early on the road, I like Russell Wilson. He's going to be cooking, man. They're letting him throw, but they've just been so efficient, so you haven't had that game where he's just dominating, right, and throwing 4 or 5 touchdowns. And I would argue that last week we saw that potential, but they just had a bunch of drives that faltered in the red zone, to where Russell Wilson is a sneaky play this week, especially with Lockett potentially being out, and you can roster DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece of news we got to take away from this with anyone considering playing Russell Wilson, is the potential Tyler Lockett out on Sunday. But, according to what we're seeing here from over here on DK from the latest play news supplied by RotoWinder, I point this out every week, guys. Like, this is an awesome spot to get some quick-hitting news. Quote, Lockett hip appears likely to play Sunday against the 49ers as Coach Pete Carroll sounded optimistic after the wide receiver was a full practice participant Friday, Greg Bell of the Tacoma News-Tribune reports. So, I like the Russell Wilson call, and I gotta say, I have no shares of Metcalf or Lockett anywhere in season long, and Lockett's looked really good this year and has made Russell Wilson also look really good. I mean, I think Wilson could also get it done with his legs in this game. It's not going to surprise me if he runs for like 40 to 50 yards in this game.
Right, and he's coming in at such low ownership with a guy with such a high ceiling. And that's the thing with Jimmy G, right? Like, sure, he has that ceiling, but the opportunity...
I'll wait.
Sure he does.
His name's not Trey Lance. His name's not Trey Lance.
Trey Lance will only see the field in the red zone, and like, I don't want to get in the rookie quarterback debate, but we've seen that ceiling before from Jimmy G. I mean, granted, it was like in 2019, but, still, we know it's there. It's got potential to be there. Could it happen against the Seahawks? Absolutely. Would it be a complete leverage play to any GPP? 100%. Especially if you're getting him at like sub 3% ownership. Mm-hmm. It's just, I would rather go Russell Wilson after having a really bad week against a Vikings defense that is not what it used to be. As much as I wanted it to be better, they are not good. So, we'll see if it's a bounce back game. I'm curious about their health. Of course, one of my big things is playing on the road. You got the Seahawks on the road, but this is a desperate team, desperate for wins, and you might see Russell Wilson just air it out and go fucking apeshit.
I would absolutely love to see him air it out. I'd love to see this offense air it out. You get no complaint from me. Look, Jimmy Garoppolo, $5,600. Probably going to be a cheap quarterback, like you said, that everyone is just going to gravitate to. Like, if I just take this game off real quick and go to all 13 games, and we look at quarterbacks under 6K in this game, overall for the slate, like Taylor Heineke, someone I get interest in. Daniel Jones against New Orleans, meh. Bridgewater at home versus Baltimore against that defense, no thank you. I mean, Winston, Garoppolo, both 5,600, probably quarterbacks people are going to gravitate to. Are people going to really try gravitating towards a Wentz or a Ryan at 5,400? Like, I can absolutely see that Garoppolo is north of 10, maybe even 12% owned on this slate.
I don't think so. I mean, there are so many great games that Jimmy G is not going to get that kind of love. The one thing I've noticed as time has passed on, there's more information out there, is that sometimes, like, this business is just getting sharper. People are going to go back to Josh Allen after last weekend. 100%. We look at the matchup with the Rams, and I get the Rams that are a spectacular team, but I would guarantee you that Kyler Murray gets more exposure than Jimmy G does this week. Who doesn't want to play Mahomes? Mahomes on a team that's desperate to win, a Chiefs team that's desperate to win, suffering from the Super Bowl hangover, I don't think Jimmy G's ownership gets that high. It's a complete leverage spot, but it's just if I have to pick between the two and I'm talking about sheer ceiling and upside, I'm going to go with Russell Wilson.
Absolutely.
It just makes more sense.
Absolutely.
The only thing I hate about it, it's on the road. You are playing, the Niners defense, but you got to assume they'll be playing from behind. He could win with his legs. And there's a huge advantage. Like the other side of things is that Kittle is still marked questionable. I think he's going to play. It's one of those things where he's probably questionable every week. And then you've got the running back fiasco with the Niners too. Like, is Elijah Mitchell going to play?
Yeah, that's
because if he plays, that changes the game script, right?
100%.
So, like, Trey Sermon barely saw the field last week. 10 rushes?
I don't want to talk about it. That was
you took that bait, huh?
I captained Trey Sermon. I thought it was his week. I said if this was the week, it was going to happen. And I actually watched the game. And I was like, okay, now I understand why this kid is so far down on the depth chart. He's just... I mean, some of the reads were good, but he just looked... I don't know if it was just slow, like him adapting from the collegiate level to the NFL at that kind of speed. He didn't look good at all. In a game where he should have crushed last week, he did absolutely nothing. Like, if we take a look at what Trey Sermon did versus Green Bay against a defense where when we see Green Bay on a slate, we go right to the running back on the other side of on the other team, and we put him in our player pool. He had, 10 attempts, 31 yards. Luckily, a touchdown bailed him out. 3 targets and 2 receptions. And this week, he's going against that Seattle defense, which has been terrible versus the run, which you and I were talking about pre-show. Like, if Mitchell's back, I want no Trey Sermon, and Mitchell becomes a phenomenal play.
Right, but limited in practice all week, so it doesn't look good. I haven't really heard anything. You'll get a better answer Sunday morning, obviously, when they rule him out or in. But if he is in, it changes the game script, and it might put me off this game entirely because I just think then the Niners are going to most definitely try to kind of pound the ball and attack through the run and everything of that nature. But we'll see. We got a lot of time between now and Sunday, and when you have to lock in those lineups. But the other major news that I think comes from this specifically is the fact that Everett is on the COVID-19 list, and he's not expected to play. So it leaves the opportunity for Disley, potentially, to get some
Big
love.
Montana!
But, we've seen that ceiling before, but, it's still capped. You're getting him at, probably 15, 16 points, right? Maybe, maybe if you're lucky, you get that rare occasion where he gets the double touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
But I that's a hard to bank on. But tight end is weak as usual. All you got in this slate is guys like Kelsey and Kittle, and those are the guys you can count on. Everyone else is kind of just cross your fingers, hope for the best, right?
It's pretty much hope for a touchdown and 50 yards.
Yeah. So
excuse me. Yeah, so Kittle and Mitchell are the keys to this game. Their injury designations are going to be key. And I say Will Disley, Big Montana. If you listen to the fantasy footballers, that's their nickname for Disley. Look, Disley's done it before, but at $2,600, I could think of, worse punts.
I don't even think it's a punt. I mean, he's played over half the snaps for the Seahawks this season on offense. Problem is he only has 4 catches for 76 yards, and he absolutely comes into play if Everett is out. He absolutely comes into even higher,
if Lockett's
more
out.
Important if Lockett is out.
If Lockett's out, Disley becomes a great play at 2,600.
Right, and then if Mitchell's out, this could just be this pass fest. And if Kittle's out, so Deebo Samuel and wrapping it back with Ayuk. I mean, there's tons of options here. I think it really comes down to the news and how you feel the game script's going to go. Jimmy G could absolutely burn you, right? If you're going to roster him, he could actually burn the game script of this game to where, Seattle's cruising through halftime and then boom, it's Chris Carson time. They have good coaching in Seattle. They won Super Bowls. It's not stupid, right? As critical as we are of coaching in the NFL, like there's a reason that there's a huge reason that Russell Wilson has only played under one coach in the NFL. Like, obviously, Pete Carroll knows his shit.
And also, as much criticism as we've given Pete Carroll for wanting to just run the ball, wait for it, and run the ball, was one of the biggest criticisms, because that's why Wilson was frustrated in the offseason, but that's neither here nor there. Basically, this game is everyone pay attention to the injury news, because game scripts are going to change depending on Mitchell, depending on Lockett, and depending on Kittle and Everett. So just keep your eyes to this game. But let's briefly talk about Carson and then the rest of the wide receivers here, Mike, and then we'll move on to the next game. Chris Carson coming in at $6,300, going against the San Francisco defense. Any interest in Chris Carson this week?
It's always going to come down to the game script, right? They've been feeding him the ball, right? And he hasn't had a 100-yard rushing attempt or a 100-yard rushing game yet.
That's crazy.
And the other issue is that he's not getting the targets, right?
Nope.
So if we're going to get into, like, if you think this is going to be a high passing, high volume game, and you're going to stack Chris Carson with Russell Wilson, I don't love that play.
No.
And then if you go with Jimmy G, you're assuming that this is going to be a shootout. I don't love that play. If I'm playing Chris Carson, it'll be as a one-off. He's not going to be in any stacks in this game for me.
I would agree with that. Like, I think if you're playing the running backs in this game, you're not stacking the quarterback with their wide receivers. This year, other than previous years, I've started my stacks now with just quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. I've left out the running backs unless it's a pass-catching running back, and Austin Eckler, or Christian McCaffrey, or Dalvin Cook, and Alvin Kamara. I'll set a specific rule in Fantasy Cruncher where it's stack quarterback with at least two players of running back, wide receiver, tight end. Only include these teams. Like, I would not do it with Carson. I wouldn't do it with Mitchell. I wouldn't do it with Sermon. This would be a game where I'm just stacking the quarterbacks with their pass catchers, and that's it. If you want to play Carson, Mitchell, and maybe even Sermon, yeah, I would do that as not part of my stacks. On the wide receiver front here, Mike, Metcalf comes in at 7,200. Lockett right behind him at 7,100. Deebo Samuel at 6,500. But the price that catches my eye is Brandon Ayuk at $5,000. Any interest in a Brandon Ayuk that cheap?
Yeah, I love him as a value play, especially in my MMEs. Like, he'll be part of plenty of lineups. I haven't done my exposures yet. I've just been kind of building, kind of see how I want to do my stacks and everything of that nature. But absolutely, I mean, like he was disappearing act weeks 1 and 2, but we've seen this before in the NFL. Like, talent, rises to the top, and Ayuk has that talent. Most definitely going to be in plenty of my lineups this week, even if I don't stack this game.
Yep.
I'm still going to have $5,000 Brandon Ayuk in there as a value play.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. All right. Anything else you want to talk about from this game before we move on?
No, man. Let's move on. Let's keep cruising.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's get into a game where I think there's going to be a lot of interest in this week, and that's going to be Carolina at Dallas. Look, as of Friday night, October 1st, this game was sitting at a 51.5 over/under, one of the highest over/unders on this slate. And if we just take a look real quick, I'll just refresh Vegas Insider here. And the highest over/under game, so we take a look at games over 50 over/unders: Cleveland at Minnesota, Carolina at Dallas, Kansas City at Philadelphia, 54.5. And oddly enough, on the main slate, the highest over/under is Arizona at the Rams at 55. Then you have Seattle at San Francisco, 52. Like, we have so many games over a 50 total here, Mike. Like, I think this is a game that people are talking about, so let's go over it real quick. Dak Prescott coming in at $6,700. Sam Darnold at $6,000. Look, Sam Darnold's been looking better and better with each week. Week 1 was a little bit of an against the Jets, but he's been getting it done. And, last week he looked really good. Like, look, the question's going to be, can he keep up with this Cowboys high-powered offense? And I think the answer is I think he can. He's only $6,000 this week on DraftKings. I think he's a great player this week. Now, that being said, despite the fact the Cowboys last season allowed the seventh fewest passing yards and only gave up 33 touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks last season, I think Darnold's a really good play, and we'll get into it. But happy Robbie Anderson week.
Oh, I'm not doing your let's play this guy this week and get fully loaded. I'm not buying the Sam Darnold hype. No way, no chance, no how. He was bad in New York, and I get it. He had the Adam Gase stench, the Jets stench on you, and yeah, change of scenery, all that shit. No, he's
still taking tomato baths from that stench.
He's still bad. And here's the issue I have with Darnold. I
never said he was great.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not gonna buy it. Like. You think that Sam Darnold's going to get into a shootout with Dak Prescott and have a shot? No way, man. Like, the GOAT almost lost to Dak Prescott when he was at home on the first game of the season. So, no way. I'm not going to buy the Sam Darnold. And if this comes and bites me in the ass, big whoop, man. The Cowboys defense just shut down the Eagles in week 3. And, yeah, they got killed by the Bucks, but so what?
It's the Bucks.
I mean, what do the Panthers got, man? Like, they just lost CMC. He's gone. So you're going to tell me that they're going to be, like, throwing DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson and that the Cowboys can't prep for this? I'm not buying it. I'm most definitely going to go on the other side of it and go all Dak. Like, there's no way that this Panthers defense is that good.
I agree.
Like, Dak Prescott is coming off injury, has something to prove, has the new contract. He's done what we love to see when a player gets a new contract and earn it, and he's done that already, right? And he's just airing it out. He had 4 touchdowns against the Bucks, over 400 yards, just to come back and say, "Hey, guess what? I'm back. I'm going to win comeback player of the year this year, barring any more injury. Hopefully not."
Please
Dominated
not.
the Eagles. Like, I know they got shitty ass coach Mike McCarthy coaching them, but what are they going to do? The fact that McCarthy's coaching him is fine, but, like, guess who's getting the ball now? The better running back, Tony Pollard's getting the ball.
There it is!
Almost doing like a timeshare with Ezekiel.
There it is!
They're doing their shit right, man. They are. They're absolutely doing it right.
It only took them 2 years to figure out that Pollard's that freaking good.
Yeah, but
we've only been saying since the Arbor Pro days, free Tony Pollard.
I get the plays for the X-Jet, but no thank you, man. It's Sam Darnold. Fuck that guy. He's bad. That's like me saying, like, if Mitch Trubisky's going to get a start in Buffalo, like, let's do it. No way, man.
Okay.
It's the same concept, same principle. Like, Jameis Winston, right? Jameis Winston needed to change the scenery. He goes to New Orleans. He's still bad. He's still Jameis.
He has no wide receiver core. At least give Jameis a little bit of a credit. He has no wide receivers. He's throwing a Marcus Callaway and Deontay Harris.
Not doing it, man. When you're bad, you're bad.
Look, I never said Darnold was elite. I just think he can keep pace. If Prescott goes out there and starts going nuts, like it would not surprise me if Prescott decides to put his foot down and put up 14 to 21 points within the first half. Maybe even the first quarter if Prescott feels like it. I think the Panthers' defense are a little bit of pretenders so far this season. I don't think they're that good. But I do think Sam Darnold may end up making my player pool. I don't know if I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him. But Dak Prescott is a great play this week. The Panthers last season, oddly enough, were middle of the pack in passing yards allowed versus opposing quarterbacks, and they gave up 28 touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks. If you're stacking the Cowboys, I think you need Dak. This isn't a spot where you're going to get cute and just go, hey, I'm going to get like Lamb and Cooper in a lab. No, you put him with Dak. You find the money and you get Dak in there. I'm fine if you want to one-offs the Lambs and the Coopers and the Wilsons. Fine. I think this is a game you stack. This may end up as my favorite stack of the week. Prescott, Lamb, Cooper. And can we talk about the fact that Amari Cooper is $6,000? Why? Like, this is the makings of a Cowboys break the slate early type of deal, doesn't it?
Well, it's a reaction to his recent play. He only had 3 catches, 26 yards or something like that against the Eagles, and I don't think he's cracked 50 yards yet this season. I'm pretty sure that's right, and that's after Dak's throwing the ball like crazy, right? So, he's throwing all over the field. I get going to Amari Cooper. He's injured though, right? He's got a rib injury.
He's not. He's fully cleared.
Fully cleared. No, not on the injury report at all.
He's not.
I know he was dealing with that rib, so I mean that could come back to bite you.
Oh yeah, that was as of last week. He didn't carry an injury designation going into the Monday game. But like, yeah, to your point, here's the game log. Versus Tampa Bay, he had 17 targets for 13 receptions for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. 41.9 DraftKings points. Okay, you ready for the next 2 games?
That's what I'm talking about. Like after that one.
At the Chargers, 5 targets for 3 receptions for 24 yards. No touchdowns. 5.4 DraftKings points. At 6,800. Okay. Monday night versus Philly, 6,300. 4 targets for 3 receptions. I understand it was a Tony Pollard game and a Zeke game. 26 receiving yards, no touchdowns. 5.6 DraftKings points. I understand the 6,000. My goodness, like, I wonder if... Do we think he's chalk?
Do we think Amari Cooper is chalk?
I mean, I would just rather find the $700 and pay up for CeeDee Lamb.
I honestly don't think he's chalk. I aren't people really probably going to go DJ Moore?
Oh, I hope they do.
Like, that makes the most sense. He's the hottest thing since sliced bread in the NFL right now, right?
That's coming crashing down. Oops, did I say that?
Yeah, he's got like 1 touchdown on the year, right? But I mean, he's got all the target volume. I think he's got double-digit targets in every game except the first 2. Or the first one. No, the first one, yeah. Looking at his stats now. 8 targets, 11 targets, 12 targets. 6 catches, 8 catches, 8 catches, 126 yards last week against Houston. Had a touchdown in week 2. If DJ Moore gets this popular, like, fine. I'll flip that around and go to Mark Cooper. Cooper's going to be popular, right? He's too cheap. $6,000. He's going to be cheap, but I don't think he's going to be the chalkiest. Cooper Kupp's going to be the chalkiest. We already know that.
Oh, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. All right, the running backs in this game, you already made mention of it, and I'm going to talk about one of my 2 core plays already, and that's Chuba Hubbard, $5,900 on this slate. Do y'all remember last week when I talked about Alexander Mattison and how I said if Dalvin Cook is out, we're playing Alexander Mattison at 6,000? Same deal this week. $1,500. We know Christian McCaffrey's out. Chuba Hubbard, had he not stayed his senior year in college, was talked about as the top running back in that class the year prior. That's how elite this kid was in college. So he stayed in. He didn't have the best senior year. And going to Carolina, he's this year's Derrick Henry. What do I mean by that? Remember when DeMarco Murray for the Titans and Derrick Henry was just hanging out, sitting behind him? And then when Derrick Henry finally got his chance to shine, he shined. And now he's one of the best running backs in the league. Enter Chuba Hubbard. That's this kid's ceiling. Do I think he shows that immediately? Like, is he's going to pop up for 200 rushing yards in this game? No. I think Carolina, to Mike's point, is going to be playing from behind in this game. But I do think Chuba Hubbard is going to be heavily involved in this offense. It is not going to surprise me if the end of the day on Sunday, we're talking about Chuba Hubbard in the winning Millie Maker lineup. If we're talking him with over 100 rushing yards and 1 to 2 touchdowns. Dallas is terrible against the run. Last season, the Cowboys defense gave up the 2nd most rushing yards and 15 touchdowns versus opposing running backs. On the flip side, the Cowboys only gave up the 2nd fewest receiving yards to opposing running backs. So 2nd most rushing yards allowed, but the 2nd fewest receiving yards allowed. I think Chuba Hubbard's in a great spot this week. But we need to talk about Ezekiel Elliott's $6,500 insane price tag after the performance he had on Monday. Zeke doesn't want to lose his job, but at the same time, Tony Pollard's just that good. So, Mike, I'm interested from you. What do you think about the running backs in this game?
Well, I agree with you on Hubbard, right? I mean, you're not going to go to Royce Freeman in this situation. And then if you're down the game script and you can't get it downfield, you're going to be dinking and diming your way down there. And we're most definitely going to go to Hubbard. He had 5 targets last game. So he's going to be part of the passing game. He's going to be highly involved. obviously we lose the speed and explosiveness of CMC going to Hubbard or Royce Freeman.
It doesn't
But
matter
they're
who
both
it is. If your name isn't CMC, you're a downgrade. Period.
Well, obviously. But like I don't think you can discredit Royce Freeman either, right? Like he could snag the goal line touches, right? Like let's just say that's the case. They get all the way down there, and Royce Freeman ends up on the goal line, and he's just snagging touchdowns from Chuba. So like that's an option there with Zeke and Pollard. Pollard is just
he's good.
Taking it over,
he's
right?
Really good. He's showing an explosiveness that I didn't even see out of Zeke last week. Like Zeke had hard hitting runs. Pollard just looked explosive. Like he just looked so good.
You know what? If with that like double-headed monster, Zeke being that more power back and Pollard being the more versatile, you could easily just slash this defense apart where they're on their heels and the play action pass opens wide up. Mm-hmm. So I mean, we could see that just huge game from Dak, and whether it's CeeDee Lamb, whoever is on the receiving end, Cedric Wilson, Amari Cooper, whatever the case may be, like you might not see those rushing touchdowns. You might not need to. That like supposedly the Carolina rush defense is really good, but again, who they play? The Jets, right? The Texans, the Saints. Come on, man. Love Dallas here. Love them.
Speaking of Dallas, I assume you're all on board.
Up 30 by halftime or some crazy stuff like that.
It would not surprise me. Like I said, it would not surprise me if Dallas breaks the slate early. Like I think they're a team you get a lot of exposure to when you play a pool, regardless of what projections, that you're using. We'll plug Fancier Sports in a minute, but regardless of what projections you're using, I'd be upping a lot of the Dallas side of this game because. Again, this is what's our total for this game? Carolina Danvers. We get this here. This is 51.5 over under. Open at 50 over 1.5. Sign me up for the over in this game. CeeDee Lamb.
I hope so.
CeeDee Lamb. 6,700. Lock and load.
I don't lock anybody, but yeah, you can load them up.
Right. So. What I mean by that is don't actually hit the lock button on a player. Never hit the lock button on a player. But I think we have a lot of exposure to him this week and be overweight compared to the field, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it depends on how you want to attack it. Like Cedric Wilson, right? He had the one touchdown in week 3.
That was frustrating.
Well, they're just waiting for Michael Gallup to come back. So if Wilson finds a role, I doubt it. Like, who's number 4? What is it? Noah Brown is number 5, right?
Oh,
Noah Brown.
Oh no, sorry, that's the other team. Yeah, Noah Brown. See me.
So they'll be split in time, but yeah. You look at CeeDee Lamb. Amari Cooper's got to be it though. $6,000. Like that's hard to not buy into.
Yep.
Due for a ceiling game, due for the positive aggression. He's like the big thing for me, and I didn't see it till you mentioned it, is that he's off the injury list. So it means the rib is a non-issue. I think you could attribute those poor weeks, the last 2 weeks, to that.
Yep.
Right. So that's good to see. Cooper could just bust out.
Yeah. I need to play Dallas because Dallas, you owe me a win. Lamb, you owe me money because I had. In my main season-long league, I had Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb going. I was down by like 30-something. Dak was doing his job, and I'm just like, anytime now, please, just one more CeeDee Lamb catch, please. I don't care if it's for a yard. Just give me one more catch. I lost by 1.9 points.
Ooh.
So it was like, one more catch. Because then Dak gets yards, and then Lamb gets about full point per reception. I'm like, please, just do something. But no, like I love CeeDee Lamb this week. So Wilson, 4,000 value play. Someone I get interest in.
No,
I'm not going crazy. Like 5-10%.
He's not even a value play. He's a one-off bomb that you hope, has the game of his life. That's really what it comes down to with Cedric Wilson or Noah Brown. Like, you can't count on
Oh,
that.
I have no interest in having Brown anyway in my player pool, but I'm probably gonna
So,
I'm probably gonna have Cedric Wilson in my player pool. I just don't know if when I run my builds if I get any.
well, I think one thing that people might overlook, and it depends on what depth chart you're looking at. Like, if you're going to like the 4-letter network and banking that that's how this is going to unfold, well, you're going to be in a lot of fucking problems because, like, Dalton Schultz has been killing it at tight end.
Yeah, he's the one I got interested in.
And Jarwin is on tight end depth chart number 1. but Schultz has outsnapped him. I think, like, almost leads in target volume by almost double digits. It's early in the season, don't get me wrong, but that could be a sleepy play going to Schultz, but we'll see. Jarwin has the talent, especially with Dak. He just might not have the chemistry yet.
Schultz is the one I have interest in. It sucks about the Blake Jarwin injury from last year because he was a breakout candidate for some. Mike the fantasy hitman right from the fantasy footballers loved Blake Jarwin last year. Then Jarwin went down to the season-ending injury, and then it was Dalton Schultz time. And it was, Schultz has had that time to build up that chemistry with Dak and Jarwin to a point too, but Schultz is the number one on the depth chart for the Dallas, in my opinion, and Schultz is someone I have interest in at $3,400 if I'm looking at a cheap tight end to fit in maybe a Kansas City stack or, incorporate a difference into my Dallas stacks. Because there are going to be plays that we're going to want to pay up for. And pay up for defenses, we'll get there. And Schultz just offers great value. So,
Absolutely.
anything else you want to talk about in this game before we get into the game that I'm sure everyone wants to talk about this week?
No. Let's get to the next one because that's the sexiest game of the week, hands down. Hands down.
Are you and I going to talk about that? Because I said last week on the podcast I thought Kansas City were one-trick ponies. Well, let's get into it. Kansas City at Philadelphia. Mike, talk to us about it, and then when you're done talking to us about that, tell us a little bit about your work over at Fanshare Sports.
Well, first of all, you look at this game, and you have two teams that are 1-2. You have two teams coming off really bad losses. You got a total of 54.5. The Chiefs on the road favored by 7, so we're anticipating, a touchdown difference, which is kind of really common in the NFL. Patty Mahomes has everyone looking to give him another L in the loss column, right? They lost in the Super Bowl hangover. Phillies looked pretty good until they ran into the Cowboys buzzsaw last week. I mean, this game has bad defenses versus good explosive offenses. So we think, right, Jalen Hurts, are you real? Are you fake? I don't know. We'll find out. But still, I don't know how you don't go Mahomes here. I don't know how you don't go Mahomes. Mahomes could break the slate, easily throw for 350, 4 touchdowns. Like, I don't know how he doesn't do that this week. I get it. They're on the road. That doesn't often happen. We know the home road splits with every team in the NFL. I understand that Philly has this great pass rush, but it's Patrick Mahomes, man. I don't care what you're bringing to him. It's Patrick Mahomes.
You could have the best pass rush in the world. You know what Mahomes is going to do? He's going to run backwards of 50 yards and throw it 80, like he did in the Super Bowl. I think he had I saw some insane stat with the Super Bowl that he was running away so much. I think he ran for like over 100 or 200 rushing yards just by running all over the field to avoid being sacked. It was crazy. Like, Philly has no secondary. Who's in their secondary? That's good.
Nobody.
Exactly.
Look. The Chiefs' defense is atrocious right now, and that's what you're banking on in this game. If you're going to stack Mahomes, you are banking on the defense still being terrible, and that the Eagles are going to stay in this game. And if that's the case, Mahomes could be going like crazy. I get it. He's thrown 3 picks this year. I think he's barely thrown interceptions in his whole career, and he's already thrown 3. So, and that's a revamped offensive line. So I don't care the type of pass rush that the Eagles can produce. It just isn't going to affect the Chiefs. It's like a hands down core stack for me playing the Chiefs. I don't care how much ownership gets. I think ownership's going to be very dispersed this week. I think a lot of people are going to try to get cute, and that's kind of what happens in week 4. They see that, like, oh, look at that. Last week, Justin Herbert. Oh, he was in the Millie lineup winner, right? Okay, whatever. You knew it was coming.
That's because Tyreek Hill disappeared from that game, and if Tyreek Hill did anything in that game, Kelsey wouldn't be in the winning lineup.
First of all, that game. Let's talk about that game. The balls to go for it on 4th down. Oh my goodness! Like, oh my god! And if like the Stones by Staley to go for it, like, and not even like hesitating, just like, go, let's do it. And I'm like, oh my god, I want you as my coach.
And in case people are not aware, Mike is a Chicago Bears fan.
Oh man, it's hard. It's hard to do. Thank God sports betting is legal in Illinois, right? Like, being a Bears fan is just miserable.
Well, maybe.
All right,
Nagy,
so like,
maybe Nagy won't be there after this year.
Whatever. It doesn't even matter.
I hear they're hiring you as head coach for next year.
That would be a terrible idea.
All right, so Mahomes $8,100. We know what the volume is going to be in this game, right? Hill at 8,000, Kelsey 8,100. Is that the main stack you were talking about?
Yeah, you can go with Kelsey. I think the hardest thing with Mahomes is that you with that price at 8,100, people are probably going to save some money and just pay down to like Josh Allen, who obviously had an incredible game, has an awesome matchup against Houston at home. So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if that Josh Allen, like, if people are willing to pay that much for a quarterback, they're not going to go Mahomes on the road. They're going to go Josh Allen. So, I'm all on board on this. They need to win. You got 54.5 point total. Makes plenty of sense to me. The key is just trying to get everyone fit in there, right? Go to Tyreek Hill. He vanished, so let's go back. Let's hope for some positive regression. If you need to, go to Herdman, right? You can do that. He can get his deep bombs, stuff,
I've been trying to acquire Diggs and Hill in my main season-long league this week, and just no one's budging. No one's selling low. No one wants to get other pieces. And rightfully so, right? Like, Diggs is about to break out this week. Hill, I think, could go absolutely ham here versus the non-existent Philly secondary. If you were to prioritize one, let's just put you in this situation. If you were to prioritize one of the 2 big Kansas City guys and you can't fit all 3, who are you prioritizing? Are you prioritizing Hill or Kelsey?
I think it depends on I think it depends on the contest selection. Like, if I'm in a single entry contest, I'll probably go Kelsey because I know that the floor is higher.
Yep.
But with like a mass multi-entry, a 20 max, 150 max, I would probably go and lean more towards Tyreek Hill because he has a higher ceiling. And that is anticipating that, he does break a run, score multiple touchdowns. And the thing is, Kelsey could score multiple touchdowns too. Mm-hmm. The problem is his yardage is kind of limited. Where, Tyreek Hill can gain almost 200 yards, I don't think Kelsey can gain more than 125 at a tight end position. So, we'll see. Problem is, the Eagles, they gave up all those yards to Schultz last week, so I think most people are going to go Kelsey in this scenario.
Oh, then
just because they're
fire up Tyreek Hill, because I think that's the answer.
Yeah, like you just go different than that. You check out ownership, and I think you go Tyreek Hill. It's hard to fit him in though. Like you're spending 16-1 now on 2 players, and if you want to truly stack it, you're gonna have to swallow the pill and play Demarcus Robinson at 3,800, right? Or Herdman makes it even tougher because he's 4,400. So
can I just play Byron Pringle at min price at 3,000? He saw 6 targets last week against the Chargers, only caught 2 of them, but like. I'd rather play Byron Pringle and hope he gets a touchdown.
You can. It's just, who's playing? They're playing my turn, right? Whose turn is it?
That's the problem. If your name isn't Hill or Kelsey, it's we have so much target share to go around. Who wants it this week?
That's the only problem with that stack, is that it leaves you so thin that you have to hit everywhere else. So that's the only way, like, you make this team, right? And you pay low on defense, you pay low at tight end, and that's playing with fire, right? Because you need guys to have ceiling games that typically don't. You just got to get super lucky. So we'll see. That's a lot of salary to dedicate to anyone.
It really, really is. But speaking of ownership, Mike, Mike's the guy I go to for anything that has to do with projection models. He is a guru when it comes to this, and you can find some of his stuff if you're interested in more Mike's work over at Fanshare Sports. Mike, why don't you plug them real quick and plug some of your stuff over there, and then we're going to get into the running backs in this game and move on to the next game.
Yeah, Fanshare Sports we are a unique breed of curating content all over the web, podcasts, everything like that. And literally our ownership is a derivative of what is being talked about in the industry. There's very little manual manipulation. There is no like opinions necessarily set in that are like of our companies. And essentially what we do is we literally listen to I don't, but people who are part of the team listen to literally hours of endless podcasts and scouring Twitter and news feeds and everything like that. And we produce just elite ownership projections. They're like, we do it for PGA DFS. We do it for NFL DFS. There have been weeks that we've gotten RSQs close to perfect, and that's unheard of in the industry. But we also have like tons of information available, like endless amounts of stats, analysis, projections, and if you are more tailored toward the analytical side of sports and seeing data in the breakdown in information of that nature, it's very helpful to go to Fanshare Sports, and affordable. Of course, if you are listening and you want a little discount, just in the discount code, just write the word Cutline and you'll get 20% off your monthly membership, which is huge. 20% off, man.
Fanshare Sports is good stuff. I checked them out quite a few times. Good stuff over at Fanshare Sports. All right, Mike, let's get into the running backs in this game. And we've already talked about the wide receivers and really tight ends. I have no interest in any of the two Philadelphia tight ends. Do you?
The Philly tight ends? No.
Yeah, no. Any interest in Jalen Hurts this week?
Yeah, if the game is like a blow-up game that like it's supposed to be, that defense on the Chiefs side is terrible, you can most definitely go to the Jalen Hurts side. He's obviously not going to get the ownership that Mahomes is getting, and if you feel like that 7's going to be real, Hurts is in play, and they're going to be falling behind, and they're going to have to come back, so he's going to come in at lower ownership, especially after last week where he looked terrible. So why not?
For sure. Well, let's talk about the running backs in this game. Clyde was almost a virtual. I know he wasn't a lock last week, but he was a phenomenal value play that you wanted exposure to. He's only up to 5,400 this week. Is canceled Clyde season back in play?
I think so, but
after that fumble, what was it, week 2?
Yeah, he fumbled. Well, he fumbled against the Chargers. He fumbled. Yeah, don't you remember? He fumbled in the second quarter, so that's two straight fumbles.
Yeah, but he did have 17 attempts last week for 100 rushing yards. He had a receiving touchdown, which was nice. But again, that was when he was 4,800. He's up to 5,400. Just what are we doing with Clyde this week?
You know what? Like, Darrell Williams is stealing touchdowns at the goal line. Edwards-Helaire it's shaky, right?
Yeah.
Shaky at best. It's hard for me to buy into it, but you might have to at the cost of like Kelsey and Tyreek Hill, to where you have to put him in there.
Like this.
The problem.
The
problem is that.
Go ahead.
The problem is he's not getting the targets.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a game script where they're going to actually try and target Edwards-Helaire in the passing game, and even last week you look at Williams. Williams had 3 targets, two receptions for 11 yards, but I mean, that's iffy, man. The 2 fumbles, I'm sure they'll let it go and they'll continue to play him, but
I mean, this is not what I expected out of Clyde when he came out of college. This is a kid that was a pass catching specialist at LSU. He was a great running back. He's still a great running back. It's just he might be taking a little longer to adapt to the NFL level. And that offense isn't exactly running back centric. Like, Andy Reid in his career has been a one running back guy. But it's Mahomes. He's flinging it out to Hill and Kelsey and what little bit they can get Clyde to work, but that offensive line still needs help. They need to continue to get their act together, so I have no interest in Miles Sanders, slight interest in Kenneth Gainwell, no interest in Boston Scott for Philly. It's a three-headed monster right now.
yeah, you're touchdown dependent. I will say this, that when we saw it in the blowout on week 1, Miles Sanders did get 15 rushes for 74 yards. So that could be the case to keep Mahomes off the field. They might try to go run heavy. And in that case, I do think that Miles Sanders is going to get the ball versus any of the other 2 backs. God, now Boston Scott, man, I just remember that mess when everyone wanted to play him that one week, and he was like min-priced, and he ended up bombing. It was like 2019. Remember that?
I also remember the Devontae Booker year where it was like, oh, Booker's in for Denver, and he was min-priced like 3,200 and did absolutely nothing. So, yep, right. I remember that.
Right. So, I don't think I ended up with any Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell. I think this becomes a game through the air. We saw Hurts, last week, even though he got picked twice, he did throw 2 touchdowns. So, like, all wasn't lost in that Monday night game. But
right.
That's the thing, though. They're coming off a short week. Everything says play KC. Contrarian play says play Philly. You hope that Hurts is throwing for 300-plus yards and more than 2 touchdowns. You also like the legs option for Hurts, right? He's got back-to-back games of he's got 19 rushes in two straight games. Not 2 straight games, but 10 rushes and then 9, so an aggregate of 19. And one of them is a rushing touchdown, so we'll see.
I have no problem if you want to play Jalen Hurts naked. If you just want to get completely weird and like large field GPPs.
It's not like that. I can't even do that with Lamar anymore because he's running less. He's being more protective. He understands. It's pretty clear that Lamar Jackson is understanding that the regular season is not as important as the postseason. And we kind of saw that last year, right?
Yeah.
So we saw it against KC, just this year. Like he scaled back this running. He wants to be an all-around passer. You can see that's part of the game plan that they're bringing in every week. They need to protect him. Even Josh Allen realized that in Buffalo. Like, you can't just run as a quarterback in the NFL or you will end up severely injured at some point during the season that if you are playing that next Sunday, you're not playing well. Mm-hmm. So for me, the one-offs are kind of done until Justin Fields realizes he needs to run for his life.
It's just running which way? The wrong way or the way down to get a touchdown?
Way to get a touchdown, man. A little RPO.
Yeah.
Mr. One Reed Fields, that's what I like to say. If you watch that game against Cleveland, and like, don't get me wrong, Matt Nagy's fucking play calling was atrocious. Like, it was. And Fields sacked 9 times. I rewatched the game, like in the high speed, so they skip all the jargon and all that other bullshit. Like, one sack doesn't even count because Fields fell. He slipped. I tripped on a shoelace. So that one doesn't even count.
Tripped on a shoelace. Oh boy.
But 5 of the 8, and you're watching it in high speed, it feels like he's holding on to the ball forever.
And I mean, rookie quarterback. It's like you have to learn, get the damn ball. Like I was watching last night. I'm watching Burrow just run around. I'm like, throw the ball away.
You know how much I'd rather have Joe Burrow as my quarterback right now? Mm-hmm. Like, all I'm going to say is he looked one read every time. and it was bad. It was hard to watch. It's hard to watch. And then I don't understand why every team can have a receiver wide open at least once in a game. I hate being a Bears fan, dude. I hate it. I hate it.
So he's going to be going to Bears Fan Anonymous when this podcast is over. Anything else you want to talk about from this game? Because the only reason I mentioned Kenneth Gainwell, when they were down on Monday night, he was the one in the backfield. He was the one Hurts was trusting. He was the one Hurts was looking to. 4,300, I could think of worse punt options than Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah, I just worry if they're behind.
If they're behind, then Gainwell's going to be in. That's what I'm saying. If he's going to be in and Gainwell rips run off at 4,300, he could pay off that price tag. And just makes for a unique Philly stack if you're playing like a Devonta Smith or a Jalen Reagor. I just think he's interesting. I wouldn't say play him crazy. I just think he's interesting.
It would make more sense for me if he were sub 4. To where I would have like interest in him. At 4,300, like he needs a touchdown. Not to say that it can't happen. It's just you got limited field opportunities. You got limited upside, a limited ceiling. You're only touching the ball maybe like your best game. Maybe what
5 to 7 touches.
12, 8, 12, 8 to 12. Probably at your best.
Maybe yeah.
And that's saying you catch every target, which you're not going to. So, yeah, I don't know. 4,300 is pretty pricey for that.
It is. But let's get into it. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. What's the highest over-under right now on the slate, Mike? It's Arizona at the Rams. 55 over-under for this game. It started out as a 50 over-under. It opened at 50. It's up to 55. 5-point increase. This is a game I have a lot of interest. More on the Rams side of the ball than I do Arizona. I think this Rams defense is legit. I think this is the Rams defense we saw a couple of years ago. The one that's not giving up a lot of points. But look, like, it's Kyler Murray. It's Matt Stafford. Both over $7,000. Kyler coming in at $7,800. Stafford coming in at $7,000. I want exposure to both of them in my player pool. I want Arizona stacks. I want Rams stacks. I want lots of Cooper Kupp. I want a little bit of Hopkins, but I want a lot of Christian Kirk. I think both of these quarterbacks are great plays this week, but again, I'm leaning slightly towards Stafford just because of the matchup against Arizona, and Kyler's going to go up against Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. And, of course, the rest of the Rams defense, but those are the two megastars. What do you think about the quarterbacks in this game overall?
Well, overall, I think the total opened up right. And the fact that we're at 54.5 is kind of like a reaction to last week's game between, the Bucs and Stafford and the hype that was behind that. And then we've seen Murray emerge as a guy who is now playing next level type quarterbacking, but let's be honest, he didn't really look that great last week, when he should have. I had him rostered in the stack. Like, I thought it would play better, but whatever, it didn't work out against Jacksonville like I hoped it did.
A lot of us hoped that game would turn out a lot different than it did.
Yeah. The thing, though, like, that total at 54.5, division game, seems high. But you're also assuming then that Kyler Murray's going to tear apart the Rams defense. I don't think that's going to happen.
That's expecting a lot. Like, it would not surprise me if Murray throws 2 picks here.
Well, I think the game script for the Rams is to run the ball. It's not to throw the ball. Like, you are going to give that ball to Henderson or Sony Michel and destroy the Cardinals' defensive line and linebacker core. They can't stop the run.
No.
Why wouldn't, like, if Henderson's still banged up, I'm going to be all about Sony Michel.
Oh, yeah. So let's actually move in and talk about it here. So, like I said, I get interest in both quarterbacks. It sounds like you might have interest more in the Rams side of the game? More interest in Stafford than Kyler?
If I were to take I really think that the play for quarterbacks would be Kyler.
Gotcha.
It's just I don't know if he can get there against the Rams
Mm.
defense. But the thing is, it's a division game. We always see the total, typically higher than average go under in division games. So that's something to keep in mind. But Arizona is on the road. So that's something to be concerned about. I just think the way that Arizona's defense is set up, the way the Rams attack it is similar to how, you attacked the Bears, right? You run the ball, set up play action and score, get a double-digit lead and run the ball and protect the lead. Like good old hard-nosed traditional football that works and wins. It's a division game. It's not, guts, glamour, Tampa Bay Buccaneers type defense. So
you would be
I think the
on
ceiling.
this game. You'd be on the under on 55.
I like the under. I think it's too high at this point. Makes more sense at around 50. Even my number was around there, so I'm going to most definitely lean under here.
Okay.
Obviously, people are betting the over. I don't know if that's the public or what. I haven't been looking at that, but
well, that's why I wanted to put this in our 4 games to target section, because I think the general public consensus is going to be this game is going to be over-owned. Kupp is going to be like north of 20% owned. Hopkins is going to be north of 15% owned. People are going to have exposure to Kyler. They're going to have exposure to Stafford. They're going to have exposure to Henderson and Michelle and Woods. And I think rightfully so, but the question is like, can we, as those of us that are listening here at Main Event DFS, can we get an advantage by maybe going and taking a stand and saying, are we going to go under on this game? Can we go underweight compared to the field on some of these players and take that stance? Like, I'm going to have plenty of Cooper Kupp, and I think it all right now depends for me on, is Henderson in? We may not know that until after lock. But, quite frankly, even if I just put Sony Michel, if I can't put Henderson in my lineups, and Henderson's ruled out, I'm just going to have tons of Sony Michel. I kind of hope that Henderson sits, because this is a phenomenal Sony Michel game if he gets the full workload. And if Henderson's in, I want lots of Henderson. Like, I think you're right. Like, this is a Rams run the ball down Arizona's throat type of game.
And then once they're up, all they're going to do is just run. So I think they're both in play because if Darrell Henderson does play, he
might be limited.
I don't think he's limited. I just think they protect him at the end of the game, right? I mean, he played. He was in practice on Wednesday, so I'm fully anticipating that he's going to be playing.
Yeah, he had a full practice on Friday, and McVay said he expects him to play on Sunday.
So, like, that's not a surprise. If that's the case, he's probably going to play. If the game's out of hand, you'll see more Sony Michel than Darrell Henderson just to keep him fresh, keep him healthy. I think a way to get different is fade Cooper Kupp and go Robert Woods or go Van Jefferson. Those guys are easily have the same, like Robert Woods especially has that same upside as Cooper Kupp. I know that he's built a relationship with Stafford and he's averaging ridiculous amounts of points. He's a wide receiver 1. That's like it's pretty obvious how good Kupp has been so far.
I think
but again,
Kupp's due for some regression, unfortunately.
Well, yeah. At some point we are going to see it, but
I just don't think it's this game.
Like we'll see, and you never know. Like if they're just gonna run play action, who's gonna be running down those slots? It's gonna be Van Jefferson and Cooper Kupp, and randomness might say, okay, Van, it's your turn. Safety fell, go and get him, boy. And in the MME, it doesn't make sense to fade Cooper Kupp, but if you are gonna single entry, those that ownership tends to nearly double. So like to get leverage on 30, 40, 50% of the field and fade Cooper Kupp if he gets hurt on the first play, you're in such a good spot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more like game theory, managing your lineups and builds, but it's not like Robert Woods is going to go low owned. Like if you are going to get different here, you go Van Jefferson, you go Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's one thing I wanted to say here, Mike. You point to Woods as, for me, Woods is a GPP play, probably not a cash play for me. Like, if I'm in cash, I think Kupp is a fantastic play for cash. You probably just put him in your cash lineup and build around him. But Woods for me, GPP play, and someone I'll continue to have exposure to. Why? Because he's still a part of this offense. He's not going away. He's not bad. He hasn't gotten bad. He's just not getting the looks. Van Jefferson's sneaky. I really like that call. Van Jefferson is what this week? Oh, he's $3,900.
Yeah, he's the value play. So like you talk about guys who are sub 4K, good for a touchdown in 70, 80 yards. Van Jefferson's your guy. You know, he may not do more than that on one play. You know, we're looking at like similar to like someone like MVS on the Packers, but that's the risk you take in rostering someone like Van Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, 6 targets last game. That's promising. 4 catches for 42 yards, no touchdowns. No touchdowns since the big bomb in week 1, but still. Oh man, by the way, someone did a free bet first touchdown against the Bears on Van Jefferson. They won like 50K. It was nuts. But I like Van here, man. I like these options to get away from Kupp. Not to say that he's not a legit that Cooper Kupp can't smash, but if Cooper Kupp's coming in at like 27, 28, 29%.
You look at the game theory and ownership standpoint, how can we get different if Cooper Kupp, doesn't do well and it ends up being a Woods and Van Jefferson game, you're leapfrogging what, 20 to 30% of the field.
Yeah, even more in single entry.
Yeah. So it's definitely more of an ownership, leverage play, and even more of a game theory play. So I like that. So you and I are definitely on both the Rams running backs. I have zero interest in the Arizona running backs. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Of the non-DeAndre Hopkins, because we're playing Hopkins in this game, regardless if he sees Jalen Ramsey shadow coverage, I just don't care. Hopkins has shown over the years he's matchup proof. And Christian Kirk is someone I have a lot of interest in this week. Christian Kirk, over the last several weeks, has shown he's had 5 targets against Tennessee. He caught all 5 balls, 5 receptions. He had 2 touchdowns in week 1. In Minnesota, that was the Rondell Moore game. Christian Kirk only saw 4 targets, but caught 3 of them for 65 yards, 9.5 DK points. Last week against Jacksonville, 8 targets, 7 receptions, 20.4 DraftKings points because he had 104 receiving yards, no touchdowns. I like Christian Kirk this week.
Christian Kirk does appeal to me, but he's kind of at that price tier at 5,300 where like you don't really fit him in your lineups unless you're stacking him with Kyler. Like, especially if you're like stacking the Chiefs, like you're not gonna fit Kirk in. I just think he's too much money. I think the only way I'm gonna play Kirk is like he'll probably one off a few times in certain lineups, certain stacks, but it's hard to not stack him with Kyler if you're not going to be doing that.
Yep, I would absolutely agree with that.
And the other issue is he's probably going to be facing Ramsey all frickin' day.
Hopkins or Kirk?
Kirk.
You don't think Ramsey shadows Hopkins? If that's the case, I'm going to have so much
Hopkins. Rams don't shadow. So it'll be Darius Williams on DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, then give me all the DeAndre Hopkins.
That's what kind of makes sense. Or you go to that slots and you look at someone like, you hope the rookie Rondell Moore like figures it out.
Yeah, I think Rondell Moore's going to struggle in this game. Just more of like, I have no stats and data to put that on other than just my gut says Rondell Moore's going to struggle against the Rams defense.
It's just I would rather go Hopkins against Williams than Kirk against Ramsey.
Oh,
that's the way that's the way they run their offense. The Rams don't flip flop cornerbacks. Like that's what's gonna happen. So I guess you can go AJ Green.
Yeah, I have no interest in AJ Green. I'm not going down that road. But I didn't realize that's how they ran it. I just thought they put Ramsey on the number 1 wide receiver. So then if Kirk's going to see shadow Ramsey coverage or going to see Ramsey a lot more, then I have no interest in Kirk. I still have some. I still think Kirk will be fine. Oh, that makes me love Hopkins so much more.
Well, you also got to be careful. Hopkins might not play. He's got the rib injury.
Practice in full. No injury designation.
God, all these guys with their ribs getting healthy.
It'd be nice. Tua, did you hear that? Get healthy. Anyway, best wishes to Tua Tagovailoa. Love to see him back, and hopefully he figures this out. DeAndre Hopkins is someone else that for the last couple of weeks just hasn't done anything. So, love me some DeAndre Hopkins this week. I think, again, we're going to need value somewhere. I think Van Jefferson is looking like a really good value play and run back if you're in your Arizona stacks. That's going to do it here. Anything else you're talking about with this game? I mean, I don't mind taking a shot on Higbee for the tight ends, but that's pretty much it.
Oh, man, I'm good. I'm good with this game.
All right. Well, let's get into it. We're going to get into our GPP only games to target. So these are games that are specific to GPPs, not cash. So GPP only games that we want to target or a game that we want to fade. Mike, what's your pick?
The game I want to target is the Packers and the Steelers. And I'm going to stack Aaron Rodgers, lots of Aaron Rodgers, against a defense that I think is very overrated.
Whoa.
They don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. They got an elite pass rush, right? But you're going against arguably number 1 or 1B quarterback in the league with arguably 1A, 1B wide receiver in the league and you have no coverage, right? You have no coverage. You have no offense. You're going to be off the field. You're going to get tired. I like Matt LaFleur's game plan for this week. He's going to let Aaron Rodgers go nuts after they set up the play action. It's Aaron Rodgers. He's coming in at sub 5% because of how highly talked about this Steelers defense is. But let's be realistic, man. They lost 24-10 at home to the Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals, who almost lost to the worst team in football, second worst team in football.
That game was such a mess.
Okay, they lost to the Bears on the road. I get that. NFL playing on the road is tough.
I'm sorry, Big Ben's just
Big Ben's washed. He's done.
Yeah, he looks done. Like he's a Hall of Famer, but he's done. Like at what point I have a friend of mine that's a Steelers fan, and I thought I saw him say something that he'd rather see Haskins start over Rudolph because again, everyone saw what Mason Rudolph did last year when Big Ben was out, wasn't exactly the greatest, and I was high on Rudolph coming out of college. I'm like, okay, when would someone say they want Dwayne Haskins to start? What was it, Haskins rookie year? But like, I think the thing with Big Ben is this turns into what Drew Brees did last year. They let Big Ben here have his final year out, and he retires in the offseason, and Pittsburgh's gonna need a quarterback.
But that's the thing. That's what makes this game so appealing. Like, you act like Mike Tomlin in this offense and Roethlisberger are not going to respond appropriately. Like Najee Harris is all of a sudden this terrible running back that is not going to that's not going to pan out. I love this game as a game stack. I love going at it at both sides. I think there's a lot of options here, especially considering the fact that people are so down on this Steelers offense. And don't get me wrong, you should be. Like, they look terrible. But Juju Smith-Schuster, he's explosive. Chase Claypool is explosive. These are guys that can most definitely outrun people deep. I mean, okay, Claypool's out with the hamstring, but like Deontay Johnson, another guy.
I was going to say, how are you not mentioning my boy Deontay Johnson?
And Deontay Johnson could blow up a slate. Like, you got tons of options on both sides.
I don't think he does against Jair Alexander, though.
But MVS is out, right? So you want to look at those like value plays, those guys that are cheap.
Lazard,
Cobb. And Lazard is just sitting there for you, who could easily go deep twice, score 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 120 yards, and you break the slate with Lazard at 3,600. And you stack him with Aaron Rodgers. I love this for a GPP play. I love it in single entry. I love it in MME. I'm going to be overweight on a low-owned Aaron Rodgers. I get it. They've been running with Aaron Jones. Don't get me wrong, but it's the NFL. It's Aaron Rodgers. Come on, man. Give me a milli. Give me a milli.
Mike, you frickin' suck. I wanted nothing to do with this game, and you literally just talked me onto Green Bay stack with a Najee run back. You suck.
Yeah, but you can when you win something, you can pay me later.
I'll pay you that 10% finder's fee.
There
Um,
you
yeah. So Claypool currently listed as questionable. He didn't practice Friday. We're probably not expecting him to play. Is this the week where we have to play Juju? I really don't want to. Is this the week we're playing Juju in the slot?
Don't play. You could don't play Juju. Play Deontay. Like, do what you want.
Deontay's
Like,
going to see Jair Alexander defense, and Jair has shown this year he is becoming an elite cornerback. Like, he's been shutting down the number one options this year.
I'm not scared. Got to run it back somehow. Look, like this. This screams first of all Devontae Adams, right?
Yes. Oh, 100%.
So
Like,
so like
all due respect to Joe Hayden, eh, Adams is going to own that defense.
okay, and if people are going to be like looking at Mahomes and Josh Allen and Murray and Lamar Jackson,
So you get
you know,
different.
like you're getting immediately different at Aaron Rodgers at 6,800. You talk about getting upside then in other positions. Come on, man. That's an easy play.
You suck.
Devontae Adams 7,900. Boom.
You suck.
I'm not. I don't suck. I'm smart.
No, you suck, because I didn't want to consider this game and wasn't considering it, and now I'm going to have to add them in my player pool. I think the biggest thing, especially, like, I don't play 150s, typically. Like, if I do, it may be a 150 on, like, FanDuel, where I can enter for, like, a nickel. Um, I enter 20 maxes, and one thing I remember that even you taught me, and still teach me, is go with guys that get you a smaller player pool. Like we talked about NASCAR. I remember I think it was like a year ago, and going with a tighter player pool, and it pays off. I found myself this past Sunday with a gigantic player pool, and I didn't know who to cut out. And then when I look at the winning lineup, I'm like, I had you, I had you, I had you, I had you, I had you. Didn't have you. I had every player in the winning, I think it was the $3 I entered, except for one in my player pool. And I didn't cut it down enough to be able to get any kind of combination. If we're going to play Mahomes and Rodgers and Kyler and Josh Allen and all these other quarterbacks that are super expensive, we need value. Your Allen Lazard call is fantastic. Now, we are on the Green Bay side of things. Any interest in Amari Rodgers, or is he off your list?
It's off my list for now.
So you're adding Cobb? Are you adding Cobb back in there? Because Cobb has seen, he hasn't seen really any volume. 1 target, 3 target, 1 target.
I think
the Lazard
Cobb's
show, right?
I think Cobb's washed up. I think with MVS, like Lazard does get some ownership though, but like I don't know how much, right? Because people are going to want to play.
If Lazard was over 10%.
People are going to want to play Devontae Adams. I think Lazard is probably your first primary 1A, and then you go to Randall Cobb. It's just, what's Randall Cobb's upside? Like 3 catches, 30-something yards, and a touchdown? He's not going deep. He's not Lazard or Devontae Adams. The other option, and it's very contrarian because we know how much Rodgers loves throwing to tight ends, but it's to go to Robert Tonyan and hope that he's just the red zone plays.
I like it.
Right? Three catches, 35, 40, 50 yards for 2 touchdowns, 4,500 Robert Tonyan. Like, I like that more than I like Randall Cobb.
I have a rule. When it comes to Pittsburgh, I don't play opposing tight ends. They're elite versus opposing tight ends.
Why do you make these rules?
Because Pittsburgh has shown for the last several years they're elite versus the tight end position. But Tonyan, I think, is a break the rule. I don't have any stats on this, but I feel like Pittsburgh has been terrible this year in the red zone. And if that's the case, Rodgers and Tonyan, yeah, that's a fantastic stack. I'm adding this play. I'm adding this game in my play pool. All right, Mike's talked me into it. I'm adding this game in my player pool.
And on the other side, you can add Freiermuth, and
yeah, he's one that's starting to get a little bit more run. What's his target share look like? Let's see. 1 target week 1, 4 against the Raiders, 5 against the Bengals. He's starting to get a little bit of run. So, yeah, I'm fine with frying me at the 3,100.
Yeah, Ebron's done. Or Ebron. Ebron. Ebron's gone. He done.
Yeah. I think they're definitely incorporating the rookie into this offense. Anything else you want to talk about with this game?
No, I don't. I love this game.
I think it's a great call.
I think if you want to get contrarian, you don't have to roster a lot of it in a 150 max. Like you can make it like your third stack, right? If you're if you're gonna roster 3 stacks, 4 stacks.
I mean, in a large field GPP, I could see pivoting to this game off the Cardinals-Rams game.
Yeah, so I think there's gonna be more scoring from the Packers than we see. They'll probably be running the clock out at the end of the game, but we'll still see Aaron Rodgers dominating enough to where he breaks the slate, and we've seen that before.
Yep.
Right? We've seen it where guys break slates before halfway through the first quarter, fourth quarter, but it's hard for me not to go to this game and say there's not a lot of value.
Just keep in mind, it looks like there might be a little bit of rain. I'm over here on Roto Grinders for the NFL weather tool, and it looks like there is projected to be some rain in this game. So just keep an eye out on that.
Let me tell you something. Fuck your rain. Your rain can... You guys falling for this rain gimmick? Come on, man. If it's windy, that's when I get concerned. You play in rain, you play in snow. We've seen guys throw for 5 touchdowns in a blizzard without any wind, man. Forget the rain, forget the snow. If there's wind, sure, then I'm concerned. But no way, man. No, if it's wet, good for them.
Oh, I'm so happy I have you on the podcast. All right, you've convinced me. This game is in my player pool now. I actually like this game now a little bit more than I like the Cardinals and the Rams. All those points were great, and just from a leverage standpoint and a MME standpoint, going overweight more on this and maybe underweight on the Cardinals and Rams game, I think might be a key to the slate. But there's one other game I want to talk about here. So, I mean, there's obvious guys you want to target. You want to target the Derrick Henrys against the Jets. You want to target the Buffalo guys against Houston. There's a game in here I want to talk about, Mike. It's Washington at Atlanta. And this is more of a sprinkle type of stuff. I like a Washington stack in this game. Heineke's 5,900. Over 20 DraftKings points in each of the last 2 games he's played. He's looked good. I don't know if Gibson's going to play in this game. He's listed as questionable with a shin injury. So if we're going to know his status prior to kickoff, I have interest in Gibson. I have interest in Cordero Patterson. I got interest in Mike Davis. I got interest in Calvin Ridley bounce back. I love McLaurin in this game. And we're going to see Curtis Samuel back. He's min price at 3,000. Should be active for this game because he was activated from injured reserve. Sign me up for some Kyle Pitts and Logan Thomas. I love all things about this game. I'm not going to go crazy. We have way too many other games with higher totals that we're going to focus on. But I just think this is a really sneaky GPP only spot.
Yeah, I mean, it would only be a GPP. I don't have interest in Matt Ryan without Julio Jones, and that's never happening again. And I don't know if Heineke has the ceiling to win you a guaranteed prize pool. And the Falcons defense isn't that bad. Like, I get it. Jalen Hurts tore him up in week 1. And you play Tom Brady, yeah, you get destroyed. But, like, Daniel Jones was touchdown free in week 3. And I'm not saying that Daniel Jones is better than Taylor Heineke because I think he's way better than Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones is the biggest bust in New York Giants history. But
whoa, okay, that's a loaded statement.
That guy's garbage. Saquon Barkley, great player. Why he was drafted where he was drafted, dumb. Like, welcome to modern NFL. It's a running back. You don't never mind. But the point being, like I'm not a Giants fan. It's just I feel bad for him because I can empathize. But like I don't think there's just enough here for me to say like, okay, I love this game, and if Heineke is going to be in it, like, what's his upside? He's not throwing 4 touchdowns, right? Because you're gonna have McKissick come in, steal a touchdown from Gibson, or Gibson get a touchdown, and like it just doesn't have that game flow where I think that like the Redskins are gonna dominate and score it. Like if I want anybody, it'd be F1 McLaurin, and
Absolutely.
like have him breaking out deep and dominating the game, but even that, I'd rather have him as a one-off. Take Brown. Brown's had a high snap rate.
I think this is an
So
interesting early only slate game.
I guess you can go Calvin Ridley. Like I see like a lot of one-offs here. Like going back to Kyle Pitts, right? Kyle Pitts eventually will have his game,
Oh yes, and then he'll be
and
right
people
in
are
his
not gonna.
hands.
People are sick of waiting for it, right? Because they're like, oh, I can't do it again. I can't do it again, and
It's
there it is.
amazing what happens when you're the most hyped up tight end in history.
And but then he's gonna have his 2 touchdown game for 75, 85 yards and 6 catches, and you know it's coming. Like it's gonna
Hmm.
come. Like keep him in your player pool. I just can't stack this game. There's so much upside elsewhere that I have no appeal. And the total is at 48. I can't do it.
Uh, I definitely want pieces of this game. Whether or not I end up on it in my final player pool, I'm not sure. I just think it's a very interesting GPP only game. Let's get into our defense segment here, Mike, and then we're going to quickly wrap up this podcast. And thank you again here for joining me. So let's get into defenses. Who are
Do
your
it.
favorite defenses to target this week?
Well, I tend to draft home defenses.
Okay, CJ. No,
Well, I do. It makes the most sense. Like it does. Like it makes the most sense, right? You are on the field when the other offense has to do a silent snap count, and you're just at such a large advantage, right? And now it doesn't always work out to your favor, but
right.
like you got cheap defenses that are affordable where you have tons of upside. Like if you really think Pittsburgh's offense is that bad, Green Bay at 3,300 makes tons of sense. If you think the Jets can stop Derrick Henry for $2,000, that makes tons of sense. I don't think they can do that, but I'm just saying.
No.
But like there's tons of options here. The Rams at 3,600, they're not going to break the bank like say the Bills are at 4,300. So I like the Vikings against Cleveland. I think that a lot of people are taking that Bears game and seeing the upside Cleveland has, but they're pretty dinged up being on the road. It's going to be a little bit different coming into Minnesota
Yes, sir. I
and
agree.
and dominating that Vikings defense. I really like Dallas here.
Yep.
Dallas is at 2,600. They're at home, and Carolina's missing their best player on offense.
Yep.
So you could have potential for lots of turnovers, some pick sixes, stuff like that. So there's advantage there. In terms of road defenses, a lot of people I think this week are going to roster that Titans team against the Jets, which makes a lot of sense. But the Titans defense isn't really that good.
No, it's not.
So you're anticipating a lot of people are going to roster the Colts because of the injury to Tua and how bad Miami's been. But you're on the road, man. It's a hard sell for me for the Colts. But beyond that, like I think a lot of people are going to roster Detroit, which is probably a mistake because
Yeah, that's a mistake.
it's you're anticipating Fields to start and turn the ball over when all of a sudden they're just going to run the ball to David Montgomery. So there goes all your scoring options. If Nick Foles starts, because we still don't know who's starting for the Bears, I guess the story kind of changes, but Nick Foles doesn't throw interceptions. He just throws bad deep balls and overthrows them by 20 yards. So I would actually rather go the opposite side and go with the Bears defense against the Lions at home. So
Yep.
that's kind of where I'm at on D.
Yeah. I think there's definitely more again once we see more injuries and stuff might sway us different ways with defenses. But like I think you and I are on some of the same defenses. I know you mentioned Tennessee and Chicago and Dallas defense. Like for me, I've got Right now, it's a massive player pool, and unfortunately, there are just a lot of expensive defenses for me that I want this week, and DraftKings did a great job with these defenses. So my player pool is very simple, at least as of right now. I have not determined anything else like final player pool, but I like the Titans, the Saints, the Bears, the Rams. I actually like both sides of the defenses of the Washington football team and the Falcons. I just added the Falcons to my player pool. Oh, my note sheet here. I like the Packers at home. I like the Niners at home. And like we already said, Dallas as well. So, anything else you want to talk about defenses before we get into our next segment?
Yeah, I think like just top of my head, you had to spit out my favorite defense of the week.
Which is Buffalo.
Miami.
Ooh. Okay.
Miami at home, they turned the ball over. They got a ton, like, what is it, 17 straight games, right? Turnover?
It's some insane stat like that, yeah.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you ride that? And they're not even coming in as the top-owned defense. So why wouldn't you ride that against Carson, I'm terrible at football wins? Like, it makes all the sense in the world, right? And you're saving money, 3,200.
Yeah. I find it interesting. I mean, this is like it questions if we want to play Pittman this week with his insane target share, 12 targets each of the last 2 weeks. I like the Dolphins call.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, you ready to get into our final segment here, and we'll head on out of here?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Our core value GPP and favorite stack segment. Mike, core plays. Who you got?
Derrick Henry and David Montgomery and Devonta Adams for sure. Like those three guys are going to be in a ton of my lineups. I just like the game script with them. I think it's really hard to avoid Derrick Henry. It is. I have the luxury, I guess, with 150 lineups that there are lineups I can fade him.
Yep.
But I'm still going to be way overweight to the field.
It's the
and
Jets.
then the game script with David Montgomery against a bad Lions team. I like the opportunity here.
Yep.
Bill Lazor's calling the calls, and I think you're going to go a way different game for the Bears. By the way, I keep trying to hustle my dad on these games, and he's getting pretty wise on this. Like after he's lost 3 straight on the Bears like spread bets to me. So like,
oh Mike,
like I mean, we like the first bet was $10, and then he's like double or nothing. I go, forget that, Dad. I'll just bet you $100. And he goes, okay. So then we go to week 2, and then we went to week 3 against the Browns. That's so good, so easy. He's wise now. He's like, I ain't betting you anymore. But yeah, for core plays for now, that's probably going to be some guys that I'm going to be very heavy on.
All makes sense to me. Henry, Montgomery, Adams, all makes sense. Value plays. We need value this week. Let's help the folks out. Who you got?
I like Peoples-Jones. I think he's a good sleeper. He's got some upside,
yep.
Especially at 3,200. That's probably the lowest I'm going to go. We mentioned Lazard for the Packers. I am going to mention him though as a value at 3,600. And if you are doing those 150 max, I think there's some huge upside for Justin Fields. Low ownership, huge upside because just people aren't going to be on him. And we talked about doing the one-offs, running quarterbacks. I would probably stack him with one of my favorite sleepers in Allen Robinson.
I like it.
So I think those are some really viable options if you want to kind of get nuts and get crazy and you're saving a lot of money so you can roster some of the bigger guys elsewhere and try to hope to hit their ceiling games. I mean, Allen Robinson's only $5,800.
Yeah.
So, you get a touchdown.
Is he really? He's 5,800 this week?
5,800 against the shitty Lions. So he's most definitely an option. Justin Fields, you hope you get the tight ends involved, but they might be in max protect now, so we'll see with that. But I just think there's a lot of value with Justin Fields if you're doing like a 150 max. I don't know if you can swing it, and it's a tough pill to swallow in the 20 max. You just got to understand the risk you're taking. That like, oh, okay, I'm rostering Justin Fields, and this is either going to put me in last or I'm going to be in first.
Yep, for sure. GPP plays, we know there are a lot of them. Give us a couple of your favorite.
Gaskin and Chubb. I do like them as plays. I think they're coming in as low owned. I mean, I guess I'll kind of connect this with my favorite stack, and I talked a lot about it, but I love the Packers stack here.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of GPP value there because of the low ownership. But like, looking at it all, like where you could leverage the field and get low ownership, I'm gonna look primarily kind of like at ceiling games, and you do have some value with those number ones that are kind of like in that mid tier. Like Amari Cooper, we talked about at 6,000. I think there's a ton of value there. Someone like Robert Woods at 5,300, there's a ton of value there. His price went down for this week. Allen Robinson at 5,800, we just talked about him. His price went down. Someone's got to catch the ball in Baltimore, right? So Sammy Watkins at 5,100. That's not a bad play either.
Rashad Bateman.
What?
Rashad Bateman.
It's not my turn. I'll get there when I get there.
Just saying, if you want to play Watkins, if Bateman's active, what does that do to Watkins?
Yeah, who knows? McCole, you can go Herdman. His price is up. It's still at 4,400. I like him, especially if you're gonna.
It's a good price for him.
If you're gonna stack. So, and Lazard is a solid play there too. So,
I would agree with that. So, and your favorite stack you said is the Green Bay, the Packers stack, right?
Yeah, it is. I don't think it'll be like my highest owned stack, but for a GPP, like let's win low ownership, like fine, everyone's gonna have Devontae Adams as a one-off, but I want him with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers, stacking the 3 touchdowns that he throws his way, and then the 2 touchdowns he throws to Lazard, and the 1 touchdown he throws to Tanyan, and I got them all in my lineup.
I like it. Awesome. I like it. All right, I'll get into mine here. My core plays for this week, shocker, Derrick Henry. And I'm putting Chuba Hubbard as a core play for me. Just because $5,900, same thing as last week with Alexander Madison. We already talked about it. I think Chuba Hubbard against Dallas is going to do damage. Value plays for me. Brandon Ayuk, 5,000. Van Jefferson, 3,900 to Mike's point earlier. And I think we're going to add in a tight end here. I think Freiermuth at 3,100. And Dalton Schultz at 3,400 make good for good values. GPP plays here. Taylor Heineke, $5,900. Najee Harris, who is only $6,800 this week. Still a little underpriced. He's going to probably get to that $7,000 range. So we'll take advantage of him against the Green Bay. We can't stop the run defense. And again, to Mike's point, if you want to run back, like I think... Oddly enough, Mike, I think the Najee run back, I think actually makes sense if you're stacking Rodgers and the pass catchers. Just because of how much involved Harris is going to be. And it's kind of, Green Bay's kind of a funnel defense anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think I kind of mentioned that before, but yeah, I totally agree.
Yep, and then I'm on board with you with David Montgomery. Not a core play for me, but a GPP play for me. And my favorite stack is going to be a Dallas stack. I want to get to Kansas City as my favorite stack of the week. I don't know if I can afford it. If I could... Favorite stack, not including price, is Kansas City of Mahomes, Hill, and Kelsey. I can probably not going to be able to afford it. Dak, Lamb, Schultz, Dak, Lamb, Cooper, Dak, Cooper, Wilson, any combination of that. I don't mind if you want to include a Tony Pollard, but probably not something I'm going to do in that game. Running backs will be probably independent, but I haven't decided that quite yet. So... Mike, any last-minute thoughts on the slate before we get out of here?
No, man. I appreciate you having me on the show, and you need a name.
I know. I need a name.
You need a name. So but it's been great. It's been great being on the show, and I hope anyone who listens cashes and smashes and creates some kick-ass lineups.
And I hear they give us all 10% of their winnings. Anyway, thanks for joining us. No, I'm kidding.
Nah, man. Keep your money, man. Keep your money. That's like as an aside, like all these fucking touts that are popping up on Twitter and then putting up their PayPal fucking pay me for my advice. Fuck you. You guys are stealing shit from us. You mother pieces of garbage.
Are people really doing that?
Oh my God, it's brutal.
It's brutal.
So bad. I won't call them out, but like, okay, so there's this golf.
Let's not call him out.
No, there's this golf. I won't call him out by name, but so there's this golf guy, and he ended up winning like some single entry, but like a small entry single entry, and he won like $750 or $800, and he's got his own little golf website, and he's got his own little things that he does and says to play. But he goes out there and he thanks like all these touts, like Rick Gaiman, who is like the biggest in golf. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're obviously just stealing their stuff and calling it your own. I was like, come on, man.
Oh no, you can't do that. That's
And then
it's crazy.
what's he do? He puts his Twitter handle out there and, hey, give me money because you won by my picks. They're not your picks. Garbage.
Crazy. We will not be doing that here, folks. But yeah, we need a podcast name. So again, leave a comment down below. Hit a like on this video. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. That way there, you all subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell next to it so you all know every single time a podcast drops here at Main Event DFS. And drop a comment down below. We need a podcast name. I've not been able to come up with one yet. So I've had a couple of ones that have been
the podcast name.
Oh, that's original. All right. Well, Mike, listen, I am so happy you got to join us here on the podcast. Thanks for coming on. And again, everyone go check out Mike over on Twitter, at Lunas on Twitter, Liunas. Check out the Cutline Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. And check out cutlinegolf.com. Mike, it's been a pleasure. Let's crush this week. I hope you win a milli. I hope one of you all out there win $1 million as well. If Mike or I can't take one down, but this is just something like From the Edge podcast. We hope you all have a great time playing this week. Go win a lot of money. Mike, good luck. Everyone else, good luck on the slate. Latest, peoples.